Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are sitting here today on episode number 106 here at the Boyer House at Central Penn College in the Nasir Harris Podcast Studio. Today, we are going to have a new person on our podcast today. It's Athletic Director Kasey Hicks. Kasey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Paul. I'm really happy to be here today.
Well, one of the things that we have several things that we want to discuss today. First of all, we're going to put a nice little bow on the soccer season. We're also going to preview the basketball season for the men's and women's teams here at Central Penn. So we are welcoming nightly news reporter Brianna Stalzitz. Brianna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And of course, nightly news vice president Tyler Coleman. Tyler, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
So one of the reasons we have Brianna and Tyler here is they were instrumental in the broadcast and sort of whole media production of our soccer games. So we did get to broadcast. Tyler and I got to broadcast 5 different games. Tyler was the man on the camera. I was producing, and we actually got to be joined by Doug Fisher, who I never even knew this about. Doug had a vast background in broadcasting and, of course, was our former men's soccer coach. So we frankly couldn't think of anyone else better to call the games. And I got to tell you, if you watch those games, it was very interesting. I learned so much about soccer in those 5 dates just from sitting with Doug and learning more about the game. It's really an educational experience. If you want to go back and watch some of those games, of course, they're on the Nightly News at Central Penn YouTube channel, and you can go back and catch those on demand anytime you want. But also, again, Brianna was the photographer, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that and about her experience. But Kasey, I want to talk to you, and I want to start off with, first of all, let us start at the beginning. So recently, you have transitioned from your position in admissions to being the athletic director after Michael Nill moved on to bigger and better things. I want to talk to you about this opportunity for you specifically, because I know obviously you've been the ladies head basketball coach for several years, right?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6 years, that's incredible. What was it about this position that said to you, because this is a major drastic change for you from what you were used to in admissions to moving to athletics. Can you give me an idea about how your first couple months have gone? And maybe even before that, what were some of the things that made you want to make this change?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have a background in sports and recreation. So my graduate degree from Immaculata is in sports management. So kind of have that background there. Prior to Central Penn, I was the intramural sports coordinator at Penn State Harrisburg. So leaving Penn State to come to Central Penn was basically just motivation to be a little bit more readily available to the students here at Central Penn and the relationships that I built through our women's basketball program. I always still had that passion for sports and recreation, even when I was in admissions. I was in admissions for almost 2 years here at Central Penn, enjoyed that process, but I definitely still had a calling to get back into, sports and recreation. So being the women's basketball coach allowed me to work closely within our athletic department. So when this role was opening up, Michael Nill was a good mentor for me. Even past ADs here at Central Penn, Dave Baker, I was able to work closely with a lot of them. So I always had my eye and ambition on a role like this. So when it opened up, it was definitely a good opportunity, good transition for me to switch over and continue to impact the students in our athletic department.
And in terms of the relation to the Nightly News, certainly we're going to be on baseball season number 3 starting up here in March. So it will be almost 2 full years that we've been working with athletics. And that was my biggest concern for the change before you were named, of course, was, we had a lot of things up in the air at the time in terms of not only soccer, but basketball. And then we moved right into baseball in the spring. And when I heard and found out that it was you that got the position, I got the biggest smile on my face, because you and I had already worked together from, us doing basketball last year. And it really helped us as a club in continuing what we were trying to do with broadcasting, because we already had a working relationship. And you were the most complimentary person of everything that we'd ever done, at least on the basketball side. So we're so happy to have you. Can I ask you, though, it's not all roses. I understand.
No, of course not.
So what were some of the things that you've seen just in the 4 months at this point that you've been the AD? What are some of the hardships that you've endured without maybe going into a whole lot of detail specifically?
I think the biggest challenge is just the transition and kind of lack of overlap there. So without any previous athletic director still here, it was a lot of just kind of picking up puzzle pieces and putting it all together. So my puzzle's still not completely together. It's just a lot of doing your own independent research to try and find all the answers to these questions. Obviously, you have the day-to-day fires as an athletic director that you have to put out. So, students have their issues, coaches have their issues. So one of the hardest things while I'm trying to find all the information that I need to be successful is also just making sure I'm readily available and open to hear, all of the problems that our student athletes might be having and that our coaches are facing, and doing the best I can with the information that I've been able to gather up so far to try and help them through their athletic journey here at Central Penn. So some small challenges. I mean, I have, great coworkers in student services that are helping me out, but it's definitely been a growing process, and I still have some more to go. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work hard to figure it all out.
Well, at least on the broadcasting side, you've got a fine group of people with the nightly news that we have it for the most part under control. Certainly willing and able to hear feedback from you and things that you may want in the future, which would be a good thing for us to talk about, because I have to fill out my goals for this year. So I obviously want to get a sense of where you see our impact continuing with the sports program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm very, very appreciative of what you guys have been able to do in nightly news. I know it's been a lot of hard work and extra hours, especially on your part, Paul. So being able to get these type of podcasts going, the live stream at the games, I know it means the world to the athletes. They work hard. You guys work hard. So it's been very successful, and I only see it going up from here. So I'm looking forward to collaborating more with you.
Well, to that point, and we can kind of bring the soccer conversation in here, you say about extra hours from me, but I got to tell you, when I'm able to tell people that I get to call basketball and call baseball as part of my job, I mean, yes, of course, if you want to ask me what my dream job would be, it would be doing play-by-play for the Chicago Cubs, but, that's not necessarily in the cards, and there's only one of those jobs. But the fact that I get to do this as part of my job is really one of the best things about my job. I complain about, everyone complains about their job. There's things about my job I love. There's things about my job that, I'd rather not necessarily have to do, filling out forms and stuff all the time. But the fact that, when we're doing this podcast, tonight is our opening live stream. So when you have heard this, both basketball teams will have played a couple of games, but the excitement that I have about being able to call this game tonight, I can't even put it into words. So, Tyler, I want to go to you. You've done broadcast with baseball thus far. You did the camera with soccer. What does this mean to you to have this opportunity with the sports? And really, that's what it is. So not only, it is a student worker position, so you are getting, number one, the experience, but you're also getting a little something in return. What has your impressions been about our broadcast thus far?
The opportunities that we've had with the nightly news have been fantastic. When you tell people that you get to broadcast baseball and basketball games, that's pretty cool. Especially speaking on my end, that is something that I would like to do as a career. So getting the opportunity now here at college has been pretty great.
Awesome. Brianna, you took a little bit different of a route. So you're obviously working with the Nightly News. You're going to do some sideline reporting for us in basketball. But with soccer, you gravitated to the photography aspect of it. And now what I think is very interesting about you is, especially from a photography aspect, now you have a ton of things you can put into your portfolio. And sports photography is still a very, very viable career path. What did you learn from participating in these games and being a part of doing photography for the athletics department?
Well, I learned a lot. I know in high school I managed baseball and football. Never really got into soccer, but then I heard that they needed pictures taken. And I was talking to one of my friends who plays soccer, and he was like, oh, you should do it. I've seen, some of your pictures on, Instagram, social media. So he actually told me about it. So then I reached out to Kasey, and I was like, hey, I can do it. And then showed up to one game, was like, oh, okay, kind of picking up soccer along the ways, really understanding, what went into it, how to take better photos. Would go through the process every night of going to the games, then taking all the pictures off. I took about 1,200 pictures a game, so it was a lot to go through.
What?
Yeah. I wanted to make sure I got enough shots of like action shots, good shots. Like that was my goal. So took as many as I can because you can't retake a picture after the game's over, but you can always go through the old ones.
I agree, but I think 1,200 is excessive.
Little, yeah.
I would honestly, because then you have to go through everything.
Every single one.
And that's part of the sort of growing pains we've had with photography in the past. We've had some great photography, but we'll get 400 and 500 pictures just dropped, and sifting through all of that stuff is not easy and is very time consuming. So, and obviously the soccer field is bigger as well. Maybe basketball might be a little easier to not take 1,200 pictures. You know what I mean?
Hopefully, but yeah, I get good shots of most of them, and then I put like 200 in a Google Drive, and all the guys go through, pick out their pictures, and post them everywhere.
And I got to tell you, that's one thing from baseball that we did that was probably we got feedback, one of the most important things we did, because we were able to share those with the baseball team, and then they were able to take tons of photos with them to keep, because not everything that we take is going to be published. Not everything's going to be needed. So it is good to give those athletes the opportunity to take some of those away. Well, Kasey, I want to come back and I want to talk about the soccer season. So our soccer teams have both concluded their season at this point. The women's soccer team ended up 4-6, whereas the men's soccer team ended up 3-8-2. Mm-hmm. Now, while being under 500 for both of them probably is not what they came into this shooting for, I think we can take away a lot of positives about this. What are some of those positives that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the women's side, you go to their games, you just see their love and passion for the game and playing for each other, which is a breath of fresh air in sports. They went out there, they had fun, and at the end of the day, that's what it's about. The women's team, they also, coming up, little surprise, we have some record-breaking players on that team who eventually we will do a little award and ceremony for. So don't want to spoil any surprises, but definitely have some exciting things there for some of our seniors who have worked hard for us for 3-4 years here through the women's program. The men's program, this was Coach Dustin Wise' first season. I think he's doing an awesome job with recruiting, getting some interest and growing the program on his side of things. The boys, I mean, they played hard. Their games were entertaining, very exciting to watch. There's lots of talent and lots of returning talent coming back. So
3 overtime matchups, did tie 2 of them and lost 1-0. But you want to talk about exciting. A 5-4 victory, a 3-2 victory. They had some unbelievably exciting games this season, and they scored a lot of goals too.
They did.
They scored in several times. It looks like 3 or 4 different times that they scored over 4 goals. So definitely exciting when we got out there. And this is something Doug brought up on the broadcast. They lost their goaltender minutes into the first game, and Max, God bless Max Thorpe. I mean, this guy had never played goaltender in his life. Actually, was new to the sport, and for him to be able to step up and still have a really solid season, I mean, that just goes to the testament of Coach Wise and how he worked with Max on that. We're going to be sad to see Max go.
Definitely,
he's a senior.
Yeah, I mean, he stepped up huge. Never playing goalkeeper before, and he I don't know, probably had well over 10-15 saves every single game.
Yeah.
So stepping up, taking that for the team, and having coach believe in him, I think made a big difference. So he's a hard worker, great kid. We're definitely going to need to find somebody big to fill his shoes.
One memory I have of the final men's game that we did, which is actually our final broadcast, Tyler, was when Max came up with the stop on the penalty kick, which was truly one of the, if you ask me, one of my standout memories. That was the one, because they were in that game. Unfortunately, they went on to lose that game, but they were in that game at that point, and that was a big momentum shift. And they came right back not long after that and scored a goal, and I believe it was because of that momentum shift. So soccer is alive and well here at Central Penn College. We've got some amazing coaches. We've got some new people coming in. I think it's a bright future. And now that we understand a little bit better how to broadcast soccer, that was sort of the problem we had last year. It's definitely something that I want to do in the future. And the days we came out, there was one rain out, but the days we came out, the most beautiful days of the year. I mean, 60 degrees, a little windy over at Adams Rickey Park, but otherwise just not a cloud in the sky on several.
We had some great weather this season, yeah.
Well, outside of massive snowfall, since the indoor sports now start, hopefully weather's not going to be an issue going forward. Kasey, the first thing I want to talk about is obviously, or maybe not obviously to some, Kasey is staying on as the assistant coach for the ladies team. What was your decision in doing that? Obviously, you're already the athletic director, so you would have been there anyway. How is your role at the game going to differ since you're also going to be the assistant coach? Are you going to be on the bench, or are you going to be more worrying about the logistics of everything?
Truly, Paul, that's probably a great question. I think we're kind of just going at it in trial and error right now. I hope to be on the bench and present, readily available for the women's basketball teams. But obviously the table and my student staff working the games are my first priority. So, definitely going to try and wear two hats when at the women's basketball games. And obviously at the men's home game, I'll just have my athletic director hat on. So Chris Norkus is the new head women's basketball coach, and he helped me out last season. So it's been a smooth, good transition for him to kind of step into this head coaching role. But me staying on it as an assistant is kind of just like a farewell tour. I worked really hard to build that women's program. I have a couple of my recruits who are seniors this year. And just kind of me being able to transition with Chris, help mentor him a little bit this season, and he'll be ready to take the reins and go full steam next season. So just kind of my last hurrah with them and looking to make some big things happen.
And honestly, I think, and I'm sure you might be a little partial on this one, this could be the best women's team in the history of our college. And we have a superstar, Jalen Burton-Jones. Anyone who watched any of the broadcasts from last year knows all about that, and the inside-outside game between Jalen and Jeray Patterson, who also will be back, and we're looking forward to seeing that. What is it about Jalen? I mean, you probably know her as well or better than anybody on this campus. Was she always this good, or what happened?
Jalen Burton-Jones was always a superstar. She actually had a full ride look transferred to us from Robert Morris. So she was playing Division I basketball, but knowing her personally, she's a home buddy. She's a family person. She's an awesome student, awesome kid, and being a little bit further away from home, I think, is worked in our favor, obviously, because we ended up getting a great kid, moving to Central Penn. She's from the Middletown, Pennsylvania area. So wanting to stay a little bit closer to home, we did end up getting her sophomore year. And she's always been a standout player. But I think the most special thing to realize about her is she's so much bigger than basketball. I mean, she's just a great kid all around, awesome student in the classroom, works really hard. So she's definitely someone special, and she's always been an amazing basketball player. And she jokes around at practice now saying, no, this is her senior year. It's time to go out. And I can't help but think, well, if you weren't going out these past 2 years, what is this season about to look like? So definitely really excited about what she's about to do. And she has an awesome supporting cast. I mean, some of the recruits we got in this season, we have some young ladies on this team who can match her talent. I mean, we're definitely by far, and again, you said it, I might be a little bit biased, but
you're supposed to be.
Right. And the AD in me talking right now has to admit this is our most talented women's basketball team roster we have ever had. We just have a lot of personalities to mesh, and we're hoping to make all that come to life.
Talk about wearing multiple hats, Brianna. You've got some big goals for our sports broadcast this year. And not only just that, of course, working with Kasey on games we are not calling. We will be calling, I believe it was 9 games that we will be calling between men's and women's in the months of November, December, and January. And of course, we're not ruling out any others. Right now we're kind of just focused on this term, and then once we get to next term, we'll kind of see where we're at. So, but I will make sure that at some point in the very near future to share the games that we are going to be calling, and you can watch those at our Nightly News YouTube channel. But Brianna, so one of the things that you're going to be doing is you're still going to be doing the photography at the basketball games. You're also going to be being our sideline reporter. How are you going to be able to juggle back and forth through both positions?
It's going to be really hard at the beginning trying to figure out the balance between, all right, this is what's going on the game right now, like on the court. These pictures need to be taken. This is what needs to happen. But then also going into and looking at, okay, this player just came off. We got to do this sideline report. Hurry up and finish this so that I can catch someone else. It's just going to be difficult finding that balance at first. But then I hope after a few games I kind of really get into it and then can really, on off days when we're not broadcasting, still get those pictures and make sure I make up for it. So it'll be interesting.
That's the worst part is it does take a game or two to get on your game, and then this is what's happened, and Tyler can probably speak to this with baseball. By our last baseball broadcast, we have it down to a science, and then that's the last one, so we can't even continue. Certainly, I think for us, you're just going to be interviewing at halftime and after the game. But certainly having. Because of where we stand, we don't really have any access to. In fact, I remember last year, Jaylin went out and missed a better part of an entire game. She did play a little bit of it, but we didn't know why. We thought she'd gotten hurt. Well, here she was sick. She wasn't feeling well. And that's the kind of information that I'm going to be looking to you, Brianna, to bring to the broadcast. Tyler, this is going to be new for you. You've done baseball. You've done soccer. What's your background with basketball?
I played basketball up through high school, but never helping broadcast games, I should say. But I think when we did baseball, it came pretty naturally to us, and I think we worked well as a team. So I think that the team that we're putting together here for the nightly news, I think we're going to do very good at basketball. I've watched enough basketball on television too, so I have an idea of how the game works, and I think we're going to be great together.
And I do want to say Christian Fulp will also be involved. I think what we're going to do is kind of rotate. I will work with you once, I'll work with Christian once, and then I'll have you two do it, and because we do need a cameraman also. So tonight at our first game, we're going to all be training on everything, so we can kind of mix up the teams and see what works best for us. But Kasey, I got to tell you, and I don't want to take anything away from the men's team, so before this podcast drops, the men are playing 2 Division I opponents. Now, this is something that historically we've done and often done in the regular season. What was the thought process to make these exhibitions?
Yeah, I mean, the men's team, we actually struggle at our level every year to find games against opponents at our level because our team is extremely talented. So we started looking at some of these NCAA Division I schools. It took off, and we've been doing it ever since. It's all based on a point system as well, for us to work towards a point system to make it to the national tournament. So playing these NCAA Division I schools, win or lose, we end up getting a decent amount of points to play them. And ultimately, our men's program does well during the regular season where, I mean, historically the men's basketball program, it's been, I believe, 17 years in a row that they've made it to the USCA national tournament. So these games definitely give us a big push. The men enjoy going to play. I think it's an awesome experience for them to get, a little, sometimes we've been on ESPN in the past, we've definitely had some exposure through these Division I games. And we have a lot of guys on the team, 2 returning All-Americans in Noah Baylor and Ryan Lawrence, who have the opportunity to look to go on to play overseas professionally. So playing these bigger schools definitely give them that exposure and the ability to work on that dream.
Of course. Well, again, the Nightly News is going to be broadcasting mainly weeknight home games. Special start time of 8:30. We won't be getting out of the gym until probably close to 11, and then, got to be back up early in the next morning. But you know what? It's something that, frankly, it's not even a job. It's just the amount of fun that we have there, win or lose, it's part of the reason why I like to do what I do, because it means that much to me. So between Tyler and Brianna and Christian as well, I think we have an amazing team. Actually recruited a brand new first-term freshman who's going to probably be joining us on occasion to kind of get in, because unfortunately Tyler's going to have baseball season, and then he's going to move on to greener pastures, and Brianna is a new student as well. So hopefully Brianna, you'll be hanging around the broadcast for a while. So I just want to tell both of you how much I genuinely appreciate you doing this, and trust me, the experience that you're getting now is going to go a long, long, long way in the future, I promise you. Well, Kasey, first of all, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
I know you got dropped right into it in the middle of soccer season and getting ready for basketball. Yeah. So more, I'm sure you're going to appreciate that tiny break between this and baseball, but it couldn't happen to a better person, and I think our athletic department is in amazing shape now that you're at the helm.
Thank you. That means the world to me. I appreciate it, and as you know, I'm going to work my butt to continue to make this athletic department successful for these students.
Of course. And Tyler and Brianna, thank you so much for being here to give your insight on soccer, and we're looking forward to basketball season. So Tyler, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Brianna, of course, look forward to our experiences at the basketball games.
Yeah, I always enjoy it, so we'll see.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nightly News podcast. For Nightly News Vice President Tyler Coleman, for Nightly News reporter Brianna Stalzitz, and our brand new Athletic Director Kasey Hicks, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll catch you next time on the Nightly News podcast.
This is Megan Ream, Director of the Learning Center at Central Penn College, and you're listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are here with two familiar voices here on the podcast. First, Director of Student Engagement, Adrienne Thoman. Adrienne, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, good to be back.
Let's talk a little bit about your jaunt to Iceland.
Oh my goodness, it was amazing, and we so lucked out. We thought it was going to be we were prepared for really, really cold weather. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't very windy. Everybody's like, the rain's going to come sideways. Don't even take an umbrella. And we didn't get much rain. Is
it the rainy season there?
It's just Iceland weather is always
raining.
Always like bad.
Interesting. Did you do anything fun that you can talk about on this podcast?
Well, we did lots of fun things. We had an awesome horseback ride on Icelandic horses, which are very special horses that can do I'm going to get it all wrong, but they can do 5 different distinct steps that they can do, and we got to experience that, and that's super fun. We saw a little tiny bit of northern lights out of the window of our Airbnb. We went to see a geyser and a waterfall and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was fun. My husband ate a sheep's head.
I'm not even sure how to follow that up.
Yeah.
How was it prepared?
First of all, I protested and went somewhere else by myself. I was like, I'm not going to be there for that. But I saw pictures, and you could see his little sheepy's jaw. You could see the whole skull.
I mean, that's kind of disturbing, but I guess when in Rome, right?
Yeah, that was something. It was old Icelandic kind of traditional food. He was like, I want to try it.
Very interesting. Well, hey, like I said, when in Rome, you got to, suck up the local traditions and local culture. So, how was the flight?
It wasn't bad. It was 6 hours. We watched a lot of on-flight movies and read books.
Well, I'm glad not only that you got to go, that you made it back safe, and you were also kind enough to buy me a really nice shirt. So I really appreciate that. That was very kind of you.
We appreciate all that you do for us. So
certainly not a problem. Like I told you before, I'm gonna need some favors from you at some point too, especially with my school. I'm gonna need some class coverage. So,
and shout out to Iceland for having these strange, very American pop culture reference themed locations in Iceland. They had the Big Lebowski bar. They had the Chuck Norris grill.
Really?
Yes.
Is it just in a touristy area town?
Well, Reykjavik isn't a huge town to begin with, right. So they had. It was right there, just on the main drag, but...
Well, we're glad that you're here. We're going to miss you again when you go to Cancun.
Costa Rica.
It's even if you want to talk about a long flight. All right, well, we're glad that you're here, and hopefully when you come back from that, you'll be rested and ready to rock and roll throughout the rest of the term. We're also being joined by Nightly News President, and Brian, I hate to bring this up, but this will be actually the last podcast that you will be on as Nightly News President.
What?
You are 100% correct, my friend.
We've not necessarily announced this to the public at large, but I guess now is as good of a time as any. So Brian is coming into his last term in winter, so he will not be leaving the Nightly News Media Club. He will still be a member of the club, but he wants to move the officer positions forward, and we have two co-VPs right now, Tyler Coleman and Christian Fulp, and we are going to kind of, instead of doing a Pres VP type of thing, we're going to do co-presidents, and they're going to move on up, and Brian's going to have a term to work with them and get them down on some of the particulars, and both of them will be here through the end of the summer term, so we'll get almost a full year with them at the helm, and I think it's noble of you to work with them, and you've been working with them for quite some time, so it's not like this is going to be something new, but Brian, of course, is looking forward. He's finishing up his internship here at PCN, and we're very proud of him and his efforts there. Strong work ethic is a theme on your evaluation at this fall.
I mean, I think it was a perfect time to, if there was a time to pass it along, I think this was the perfect time. I mean, next semester, who knows? I will be here, but who knows how much I will be here. That's all I can say. A lot of traveling will be happening. So,
Well, hopefully it snows, so you're stuck here. You can just come down and do some more podcasts.
Yeah.
And of course, you will still have a couple of more. We're trying to get you on with John DeLeo, so you might be back on for that
Yes.
one. And of course, we
Yes.
still do the Fantasy Football Strategy Guide podcast, which we will have 3 more
my
episodes of
goodness.
that this year. So it won't be the last time you've heard from
No.
him, but might be one of the last times that you hear from Brian. Well, why we are here today is to talk more. I mean, I would love to just sit here and talk about Adrienne's 5 vacations or Brian's future career, but we actually have something very, very important that we're talking about. In fact, one of Brian's major initiatives that, in fact, I remember you talking about this about 3 months ago, is the AAB Talent Show. This is going to take place on Thursday, November 21st at 7:30, sponsored by the Activities Advisory Board, which you're also the president of, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was I gained that position back in the summer term. So yeah, beginning of the summer term, I took off with that, and we're really starting off very well. A lot of good activities coming from the Activities Advisory Board.
Adrienne, one that we just completed is nationally known comedian Jose Sarduy was here on campus. Would you just share a little bit of a recap of Jose's appearance here at Central Penn College?
Well, it was a really fun night. He had lots of great material for us. We were cracking up. But yeah, a really fun night for our students. We had excellent attendance, a good crowd.
That's awesome. So let's focus a little bit more about this talent show. So this is kind of the first of its kind. There's been other things kind of like this in the past, but where did you come up with the idea, Brian, to do this in terms of one of your AAB events?
Yeah. So we decided to come up with the talent show because a lot of the students had positive feedback about the fashion show. And we thought, what else could we do to even do better than that? And right away, we came up with a talent show.
Was this something that you had a lot of student interest? Because I know that right now you said that a lot of the performers right now are faculty and staff.
Yeah,
so
you're correct. I mean, a lot of the AAB members said that they think it would be a great idea. So I'm waiting to hear back from students. So the thing is, with the high numbers of residential students from this past term, they didn't really know about it until moving here.
That's true. It's funny because Brian's asked me several times to be in it, and I keep thinking, what I think that's might be the biggest problem in terms of getting more students involved is it's difficult to kind of, okay, what am I good at? Well, I think I'm good at podcasting.
Okay.
That's not necessarily a talent. I think I'm a decent
Was
writer.
a talent, but not for a talent show.
Right. I mean, I
Yeah.
could just come in and play my podcast and say, hey, see how great that is? I don't think that's what you're
Yeah.
going for. Same thing. Like, I think I'm a good writer, but again, not necessarily a talent.
You could read. You could do a reading.
I don't know that I would consider that a talent, in my own personal opinion.
about-
Like, I wouldn't look at it that being a talent in my mind.
Authors highlight their own works. They do readings.
And I heard you could sing.
I suppose on occasion, but I'm not much of a singer either.
That's okay.
Like I told you before, I would love to learn card tricks, but
That would be cool.
It's too. I can't learn card tricks in 2 weeks and act like it's
That's
a
true.
talent.
That's true.
Oh,
It's tough.
wait, hold on. I can teach you a card trick that you can do for the talent show.
We will
Listeners, don't listen. But
we will have to address that at a later.
actually, sign him up for mind reading.
Mind reading. What?
That's a whole separate conversation. But do you think that maybe if you suggested a few potential talents that might kind of get the juices flowing
Yeah.
in the minds of the students?
And that's one thing we did on the Nightway recently. The last Nightway, I went on and talked about the talent show, and we came up with improv comedy, dancing, singing, and so many different ideas. And the people on the Nightway also said it was good to get those ideas flowing, just like how you said.
Of course. Now, I do understand. So you wanted to start this because of the fashion show. You thought that it was a really cool thing, way to engage students, faculty, and staff. But it seems that so far that a lot of the talents that you're signed up for are from the faculty and staff.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very appreciative for them too, because they want to display their talents to the student body at Central Penn, and this is a good way for them to show like who they are. And I mean, because a lot of these students might not know the faculty and some faculty and staff.
Of course.
I'm actually really excited to see all the different talents that they're signing, because I'm kind of seeing the list as they sign up
Yeah.
with you, and there's some really good stuff. I'm pumped to see it because we don't see each other as coworkers like in
Yeah.
that capacity very often. So
I remember Steve Shoemaker. Did he happen to sign up? He's
I'm gonna
got
be
like
honest-
a mind reading thing that he did for us at a previous event,
He might be somebody worth like.
Yeah, we'll have to
deliberately
reach out
asking.
to Steve.
it was very impressive. And it's along that kind of mind reading type of thing, which is why I would rather put
Yeah.
him in that position. Without giving away any names.
Okay.
Or what maybe we could do is we could kind of give maybe a couple of faculty staff names that have signed up, and then separately we can talk about some of the talents that they have. I don't want to say this
All right.
person's doing
All
this
right,
thing because
that's
I want it to preserve the element of surprise.
All right, so right now, currently, we have John Steindel. He is from the admissions department. Angie, she signed up recently from the admissions department, and I'm gonna let that there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it there.
Maybe any other people, any talents that you have coming down the pipe that you can maybe chat about a little bit.
A lot of it has to do with music. I'll just leave a lot of musical talent.
Playing music, singing music.
It's actually a little bit of everything.
See, that's one thing that I've never, as a rock DJ, I've been a rock DJ for most of my life. Love music. Never played an instrument ever.
You and me are in the same
And
boat.
it's so weird because I love music and I have such a respect for music, but I can't even read a sheet of music. Not that that's necessarily a requirement to play music, because a lot of people who play by ear and couldn't read a sheet of music to save their life. In fact, one of my best friends, he would listen to a song and be able to pick it up instantly and play it. But if I put a sheet of music in front of him, he'd have no idea what he might as well have been reading a different language.
Yeah.
And so that's what was impressive, because he literally had no formal music training, but just from his ear could pick it up. To me, that's a talent.
That is a talent. That's a real good talent.
Well, so the AAB, always busy. Brian, one other thing that I know that you wanted to talk about is, of course, before we move on, that AAB talent show will be November 21st from 7:30 to 9:30. Please reach out to Adrienne if you have any questions about this, or certainly if you see Brian around campus, you can certainly ask him about this and he can give you much more information. I did want to point out that this is directly after the Residence Life Thanksgiving dinner, which is at 5:30 to 7:30 in the conference center. So this would be perfect. Have a nice meal and walk on across the bridge, and hopefully by then it won't be snowing.
Yeah.
And come into the theater, and from 7:30 to 9:30, check out the talent show. That's a heck of an evening there, right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's great. We're very thankful for the opportunity. Again, it's great that it works out with the Thanksgiving dinner right before it. Come over and have a good time. There will be refreshments provided also.
Awesome. Now, the other thing that in our pre-show meeting that we chatted about was Karam Jam. So, Adrienne, we might be stealing a little of your thunder here, because I know that that's always one of your featured 3 in December. But we're going to look ahead. Karam Jam is going to be changing a little bit for this term. So
With all good things.
let's talk a little bit more about what that
Strange
means.
revamp.
So you say some of these good things. Give us some ideas of what you're expecting. I know you're still planning it, but what are some preliminary ideas?
Well, I'm totally going to throw that over to Brian, because
Oh, my goodness.
really, the event is planned by the Activities Advisory Board. I always joke that they're the boss. I just pay the bill. So
Adrian's the best. No, so one thing that we always did was, it was a normal night in the Underground Lounge. Different types of food, pizza, tacos, bingo. But I remember last year we did that same thing, but the Activities Advisory Board went all out on this one because it was a holiday time. So I was like, let's do something similar to that. So we are going to be in the MPR, multi-purpose room, and we're going to make homemade Christmas cookies, all that type of stuff, music, Keurig for hot chocolate, coffee, whatever, Christmas tree, again, music. And we're going to have different activities going on that night, and then finish the night in the Underground Lounge. We just partnered up with student ambassadors, and we're going to have like a little pajama party for people too. So it's a good way to end the term.
How about some selection of Christmas movies? Can you do that?
We're in the process of actually getting Christmas movies narrowed down. Yep.
Nice. Well, I got to tell you, Brian, before we get you out of here, since this may be one of the last shows that you have the opportunity to talk about this, what has it meant to you to be involved here at the campus? I mean, obviously you've been a major part of the Nightly News. You've been our longest tenured president that we've had forever, and I believe you're the 5th or 6th president at this point. Yeah. Now you're taking an active role in AAB. You're the senior residence life coordinator. What does it mean to you to have had this experience to be here and get so involved here at Central Penn?
Oh man, this place, it opened me to a lot. I mean, I moved down here knowing really before knowing I knew one person. I knew Bob Hauer, and that was really it. Came down, got a job, got involved with you, with the Nightly News, and never looked back. That's honestly the one thing I will always say. I never looked back, and it really helped me become who I am today, I think. One thing I always wanted to be was a student leader, getting other people involved, and probably one of my biggest accomplishments was the School Spirit Award last year, and that's what I always wanted to be remembered as, is someone getting other people involved and giving them opportunities.
Well, you came into the club at a very interesting time in terms of the Nightly News, because we had leadership of Cy and Yuli and Sherry, and here they are, a little further along in their careers, and for you to kind of just take the lead at such a young age, at 19 years old, it's really quite incredible, Brian. And I hope that, obviously, we can't be friends while you're in school.
I know.
But, when you're done with school, I consider you're going to be a friend to me for the rest of my life. And that's what's, I think, very unique about the experience that we have in higher education, because, even though at some point you're going to be moving to bigger and better things, and you're going to be rocking New York City at some point.
I know where I'm going.
But my point is that the relationship that we've built over the years, not even just with me, but you with Adrienne and you with other people here on campus, Brianna Condas, people like that you've gotten to know and really gotten to really become more a colleague. Like, I don't at this point really look at you as my student anymore. It's also been a while since I've had you in class. I had you in one class last term, but I think that was it this year. I really look at you as more an equal at this point, and certainly when you graduate, absolutely an equal. And I hope that, and I appreciate all the wonderful things that you've had to say about me, but it's certainly not just me. It's you were the one that did it. I really just gave you an opportunity, and you seized that opportunity.
Well, that was one thing I am very appreciative for all that you said. But I feel like with the Nightly News, I feel like the school needed that in general also. There was really no, in my opinion, just someone that stood out and made the school. So that was my plan. Come in, be like the big student, kind of be like Curtis, if you want to be completely honest. I wanted to always be like him because he's the one that got me here.
Well, tell him that next time you see him.
I think you should tell him that.
He knows that. I would say we've talked about this many times. But the school needed someone, and I feel like at that, I would say right around like Christmas 2017 was when it just went off. And it's actually good because, now I can pass that one along to like Parker Rose or Robert McHugh or so forth. They'll get there, I promise.
And we have several new students in the club. We still have people like Leslie and Kim
great people
who are, more experienced and still very, very willing, not necessarily on campus quite as much, but still very, very active in the club.
Oh my goodness, yes. And the commuter students and the older students here are just so great for the younger. They teach them a lot.
And I think that that's one of the unintended side effects of, we started running night classes about a year and a half ago in our department, which we'd never done historically. And I think that that's one of the best things, because you've got this mixture of traditional, non-traditional students all coming together, working together, collaborating together. Yeah. And actually, it's funny, when I talk to Leslie, and obviously Leslie's been on the show several times, this is one of her favorite things about these night classes is that she does get to work with younger people, and she really enjoys that. I'm sure on occasion it might be a little frustrating, but overall she, that's a very rewarding thing for her as well.
Yeah, the people at Central Penn here are just great. Helping out with the older, like you were saying, how the night class, and that was a really good move by you guys, and it's open to get more opportunities for them.
Without a doubt. Well, Brian, I have to tell you again, we're looking forward to having you on a couple more podcasts.
Of course.
And obviously you'll be a part of what we're doing in the winter term.
Yeah.
One final event that I wanted to bring up is the December 21st Nightly News Speaker Series.
Yes.
We actually, and you know what? I 100% have to give you full credit on not only just bringing Tom Russell here, but literally every single Nightly News Speaker Series was coordinated by you. Yes, I went out and bought the food, in which you helped me with as well. But, I might have to give you a call to get some more people down here.
That's okay. We've had some great people here. We had R.J. Harris here, and that's like a pretty big deal.
Glenn?
Glenn and Bob were all here.
Absolutely.
It's just great. That's something I'm glad I can that's my big contribution to the school.
I agree, and again, it's something that we want to continue going forward. So, Adrienne, do you have any parting thoughts for Brian, since this might be the last time that you're on the show with him?
Oh my goodness, I can't handle that pressure. Brian, you're awesome, and you know that.
Oh, don't say that.
We appreciate having you on campus and all that spirit that you add and everything that you've done here.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most exciting things for me is, of course, we love seeing the things that you do here on campus, but it is super cool to see what you do after you leave us.
Oh, I thought you were... All right, yeah, okay.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to talk about my job, but that's okay. About my, in the past year or two, all the different stuff. I don't know.
You have to be the busiest person on campus. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
I mean, Adrienne's always asking me, who am I going to meet now and all that. I thought she was going to bring up that, not going to lie.
Well, Brian, just remember, you've got a ton of people here who stand behind you, and even though you won't necessarily be here after March, you always have us.
Oh, my goodness,
You can lean on us. You can ask us for advice. You can ask us for recommendation letters.
Absolutely.
And heck, I'll keep my ear to the ground if I hear any good job opportunities, which is one of the things I do for my students.
I mean, my
as well.
ultimate goal is to come back down to Harrisburg at some point.
Sure.
So, yeah, but next couple months, my heart's on one place right now, besides Central Penn, of course.
Of course. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of another Nightly News podcast. First, I have to thank the most prolific guest in the history of the Nightly News podcast.
The best in the world.
Student Engagement Director Adrienne Thoman. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us and talking more about the upcoming talent show.
As always, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Always. So before we bid Brian a fondue, one last plug, the talent show, Thursday, November 21st, 7:30 to 9:30 in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater, directly after the Residence Life Thanksgiving in the Conference Center from 5:30 to 7:30. You have any questions? Ask this man right here, Mr. Brian Christiana, president of the Nightly News Media Club, president of the AAB, and who knows what happens in the future, but whatever it is, you're going to be successful at it, and you've made every single opportunity you've taken advantage of here at Central Penn, and I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you again for everyone, my Central Penn family in general, Nightly News, everything. Thank you again.
Of course. All right, well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For Brian Christiana, Adrienne Thoman, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.